Sportageous. Sport gets smarter.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Sportageous Videocast. Today's guest needs no introduction. From chance to shine to Leicestershire cricket to the Pakistan Cricket Board. You've seen him on TV, heard about him championing the digitization of cricket, and of course know all about the mammoth task he has been handed of revamping Pakistan's domestic cricket structure. The Chief Executive of the Pakistan Cricket Board. Welcome to the show, Wasim Khan.
Zishan, thank you very much. Thanks for the invitation.
Look, Wasim, I wanted to get straight into it. And, you know, we were chatting in the pre-interview, and I said, I don't want to dwell too much on the whole discussion around you being an outsider, because that's been covered in the media quite significantly as of late. And, you know, that discussion on being a British Pakistani in Pakistan and so on. Instead, I wanted to ask you, from my understanding, most British Pakistanis, from what I understand, support Pakistan when it comes to cricket. So from that understanding, what has the reception been like for you at home since you've come on board the PCB?
I think if you take the UK, for example, Zishan, I think the support has been overwhelming. It really has. I think that, you know, a lot of, particularly the diaspora in the UK, the dream job for them would be to work at the PCB or be involved in Pakistan cricket. So, you know, they have seen, I guess, one of their own from a British Pakistani going back to Pakistan to try and support and contribute to the betterment of Pakistan cricket. So, you know, honestly, the support has been overwhelming from the diaspora in the UK and from around the world. So I get a lot of support from Australia, from the US, Canada, you know, people just sort of saying, you know what, hang in there, you're doing a great job, just keep doing what you're doing. And to be fair, I would say the majority of supporters or fans in Pakistan have been right behind me. And I think people always wait to see. So I think the proof is always in the pudding. Is this guy delivering? And I think that when you start to do things and you get things done, people start believing more in you, because I think the Pakistan Cricket Board in the past had always had quite a bad rep. You know, a lot of inertia, jobs for the boys. Nobody really cares about moving Pakistan cricket forward, full of bureaucracy. So what I've tried to do is come in and just really energize the place, start to get things done. And so to get international cricket back after 10 years within the first year, test cricket back was, you know, a major thing for the country. But get the whole of the HBL PSL back to Pakistan, which ironically isn't an easy thing, Zishan, because we don't have the logistical sort of infrastructure to use full venues, production kits, to get it around. You know, over 500,000 fans enjoyed live cricket. Got a 5-year strategy. The MCC came from the UK. We're in talks with England at the moment about coming for a short tour. Zimbabwe are currently in Pakistan. South Africa are coming. So a number of real milestones have been hit. And I think it was important for me, in order to gain the credibility of people in Pakistan, was to start to deliver quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot to unpack there, Wasim, and I will go through some of those things with you in detail. What is interesting is obviously that being able to deliver what you are delivering doesn't come without having gained skills and experience. And, you know, that sort of comes into my next question, which was that, can you tell me a little bit about these skills and experiences that you perhaps developed and gained when you were first, of course, at Chance to Shine, now one of the largest sports development focused NGOs, and then, of course, Leicestershire Cricket Club? And how did the skills that you gained and developed, how were you able to use those and utilize those in, you know, obviously what you're doing now?
Yeah, look, I would actually take it back a little bit further. I was fortunate enough. I was the first British-born Pakistani to play professional cricket in England. So I played county cricket for Warwickshire and for Sussex for 10 years. And what I learned from a very young age was the importance of political intelligence. And that's something that I think that is needed, I think, in the modern world, because you need to know how to maneuver yourself through and navigate yourself through certain situations. And, being the first British-born Pakistani, I needed to have a lot of that and develop that. So I think a lot of my training that is now helping me in Pakistan started from that period. When I finished playing cricket at the age of 30, professional cricket, like most ex-players or cricketers, you worry about what you're going to do after your cricket finishes, your career. I'd never gone to university, so I had no undergrad degree to fall back on, because I'd gone to Australia every year to play club cricket for 10 years. So I set up a coaching business, and I started coaching in local schools, trying to give something back in inner city Birmingham, where I was from. And then I got a bit of a lucky break in the fact that the former governor of the Bank of England, Lord Mervyn King, set up a cricket charity called Chance to Shine. And the whole purpose of that was to try and get cricket back into state schools, because there was a big disparity between public schools and state schools in terms of who played cricket. And so I started that journey. I came in as the ops director. And again, I just learned on the job, Zishan. There was no formal training. So I watched, I observed, I used a lot of the things I'd learned during my cricket career to help me operate in a professional way, but also with the understanding there was a lot of learning for me. So I absorbed as much as I could as an ops director to start with for the first 3 or 4 years, how to write business plans. I had no idea. So, I went on to Google, as you do, how to write a business plan. And that's how I kind of started my learning and my education about things. And then having done that, I was then elevated to chief executive at Chance to Shine. During that time, I wrote an autobiography called Brimful of Passion, which was about my experiences as a South Asian cricketer, if you like, coming into the professional game in England as the first British-born Pakistani. And then, I just progressed that way, and I learned on the job as I went along. And then I was lucky enough to be awarded an MBE for services to charities and to cricket. We'd raised £55 million in 9 years as a charity, reached 2.5 million children who'd never played cricket, and we had 1 million girls involved as well. So it was a real fulfilling project to be involved in. And then at the age of 41, I think back in 2011, I decided to embark on a master's and an MBA. So I went to Warwick Business School in the UK to do an executive MBA, which took me 3 years to do. Like most exec MBAs, while you're working, you're studying as well. So it was something that suddenly at the age of 41, I decided I wanted to do, having had no interest in academia all my life. But I just felt as part of my continued growth and learning, it was very important for me to do that. So I did that. I then used a lot of those things I was learning in my role at Chance to Shine as a CEO. Then the opportunity came around to be the chief executive at Leicestershire County Cricket Club. So I did that for 4 years. And then the opportunity came up. The role was advertised. I was approached, I think, out of about 200 people who had applied. And I was lucky enough to get the job here at the Pakistan Cricket Board as a CEO. I guess a lot of that political intelligence that I'd learned helped me massively, and has helped me massively to navigate myself through what is probably a highly political role, just because of the nature of it, and the fact that the patron is also the prime minister of the country. So there's a number of nuances that bring politics and the sport together. But we operate autonomously, but there constantly is this whole scrutiny that hangs over us, both from the media and from ministers as well.
Oh, absolutely. I cannot imagine personally, but that's not what I do, so I don't think I have to worry about it too much. But Wasim, before we get to the PCB, I just want to take it a step back to what you were talking about, being the first Pakistani British cricketer in county cricket. You were also the first Black or South Asian CEO of any professional sports club in the UK. And that, I imagine, of course, being, a part of the diaspora community myself here in Australia, comes with its own pressure. And with that, certain expectations. Was there some sort of resilience that, you had to develop with having that label attached to yourself?
Again, I think resilience is something you build up over time. And again, I go back to my cricket career in the 90s. There was, I was at a club which was winning everything, and competition was strong. You had the likes of Brian Lara, Alan Donald, Sean Pollock at the club at the time during the 90s, and we had some fantastic batsmen. So I was competing against a lot of these guys to get into the team. So, you had a lot of ups and downs, a lot of downs in my career. So you learn to come back again and again and again from that, just through an inner resilience, I guess, and an inner strength that, that this is what I want to do. I'm going to get there. I'm going to make it. So again, I go back to my 20s in terms of developing that. And I developed the resilience. When I found out that I was the only CEO across any professional from a Black or Asian background across any professional sports club, I guess I never saw it as any additional pressure. I just saw it as somebody who's doing his job, is good at his job, hopefully, and that's how he's, not because I'm a South Asian that I've been given an opportunity. And I think that there can be a patronizing nature to Blacks or South Asians being offered roles, across certain things. So, for example, Leicestershire being heavily densely populated with South Asians, when I was given the job and I accepted it, there was a lot of talk about, well, there's a big South Asian community and a great fit, and so that in itself kind of diminished. In your own mind a little bit, the fact that you were getting this on merit because you had the business nous. I'd played pro cricket, so I'd been on the other side of the fence, and you would bring a whole load of skills as well as being able to engage with the South Asian community. So I was pushing back a lot on the first narrative from media and journalists was about, oh, well, big South Asian community. Are you hoping to engage them better? It'd be great. You'll know how to better engage them. So that's the sort of, I guess, stereotype or I guess unconscious bias, which probably existed. But, I never felt any additional pressure, Zashana. I mean, I got on with my job, and did it to the best of my ability. Some things went well, some didn't. But, I don't have any regrets about anything I do. I try and do an honest job, and that's the way I operate.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, it's interesting because now, like I touched on earlier, you're in a similar, there's a similar perception around you based on, what the media has said, but in a different context that now, you're from the diaspora community and you're the chief executive of the PCB. Again, I guess it goes back to our earlier chat. Did those experiences being the first person from a Black or Asian community at a sports club translate into this role and how you deal with it, or is it a completely different ballgame?
It's a completely different ballgame. So I'm sure that subconsciously there were a lot of things that I drew on from my experiences, and certainly I mentioned about political intelligence. But I think the level of media hostility that I faced, having been seen as somebody who's never lived in the country, doesn't understand Pakistan cricket, doesn't know about Pakistan culture, is an import. The kind of the insults went on and on and on. And, there was obviously a prolonged media campaign. I've been in the job 20 months now. It seems to have died down a little bit because, again, I drew on a lot of my resilience. I think that what they wanted was that I'd get fed up after 6 months and disappear. But, I made it, I said over and over again, Zashan, that, if I wanted more money, I would have stayed in England. If I wanted comfort and security, I would have stayed in England. So, I came because I genuinely felt I could contribute. Cricket's cricket, right? And so when people say, well, he knows nothing about Pakistan cricket, well, what is there to know? What's different about Pakistan cricket? Whether I go to Sri Lanka or Bangladesh, you've had CEOs, the West Indian CEO is from England. So, does he not know about West Indies cricket? Cricket's cricket. Yes, there are some cultural things that you need to be aware of. There are, differences in how people approach things, and the level of professionalism, etc. But fundamentally, cricket is cricket. Cricket development, whether it's operating a cricket board, you're all achieving and you're all trying for the same things. That is to have a strong domestic structure that will allow you to produce international cricketers that can help your country become the best in the world. And then underpinning all of that is a good, strong grassroots program, which allows youngsters to participate, the cream rise to the top, others continue playing, but through the talent ID programs, they keep rising through your system on a merit-based way. So I've tried to bring merit back into Pakistan cricket. There's been a lot of pushback on that because that's not something that comes easy. It's all about a phone call and hopefully do me a favor here, do me a favor there. But I've operated pretty strictly in terms of my principles, my morals, in terms of how I do business and how I operate. And if that's upset people, it's upset people. But I'm not going to lie awake at night, but thinking that I've compromised who I am and what I'm about. I've come here to contribute. I'm doing my best. If it's not good enough, then that's other people to decide. But I don't worry about those things now, and I just do the right thing for Pakistan cricket, because we have to get Pakistan cricket back up there in the international standing. We've got a fantastic chairman in Ihsan Mani, who's been a former ICC chairman and president. We're very lucky to have him because of who he is and what he's done in life. And hopefully I'm contributing a little bit towards raising the credibility of the country again from a cricketing perspective, having a voice, talking about everything that's good about Pakistan cricket and getting things done. And that's, again, I go back to that. That's the most important thing.
Well, 20 months, congratulations. You've survived. I'd say you, sorry?
I said I've survived, you're right.
Yeah, no, I would actually say, you've thrived rather. So it's obviously glad to see a lot of what's going on with the PCB, and that's also a great segue into my next question, which has to do with the recently concluded domestic T20 tournament, which was streamed on YouTube. I don't think I would have been watching it here in Australia if it wasn't on YouTube. So for me personally, I think that was fantastic. Could you tell me what led to this decision of sort of moving to that digitization area, and how has it been in terms of do you when you guys sit down, when the team sits down, looks back at this, do you consider it to be a success or not?
Yeah, look, I think we had a few hiccups at the beginning, particularly with our production, and I think around graphics, around some of the production as well. Just to give you a bit of context as well, we very recently signed a tripartite agreement with PTV, Pakistan TV Sports, and the cable operators in Pakistan, which hopefully is going to generate us about $90 million a year as a cricket board, which is a real groundbreaking opportunity for us. So we license space on PTV Sports, so all of our content goes on there. We produce all the content, so the production sits with us, and then it's distributed through the cable operators, and we receive a monthly subscription through the cable operators. I think it is roughly between 12 and 16 million subscribers across Pakistan, across the various cable operators. So that was quite a groundbreaking deal for us. Also, within the next 6 to 12 months, Pakistan is going to become digitalized. So you're moving from analog to digital throughout the whole country, city to city. So there's a number of things that are happening there. When we approached the National T20 competition, it was important for us to try and reach a diaspora around the world, to give them an opportunity to watch. So you would have noticed two different, if you were sitting in Pakistan and you had YouTube on and you were watching it on TV, you would have noticed an SD, standard definition coverage on PTV Sports, and a high definition content being shown on YouTube. The actual production was done in high definition, but unfortunately the platform, the PTV Sports at the moment, is still SD, which they still need to upgrade. But it was important for us so that people could see our rising stars around the world, likes of yourself could get the opportunity to watch. But the quality, I thought, of cricket was superb. The wickets were good, scores of close to 200 most of the time. And so I think overall it was a real success for us. The Rawalpindi leg, the second leg of it went fantastically well. So all the little glitches we had from a graphics point of view had gone. And, we were now sort of into the back end of the tournament. And, we look back on it, feedback from players has been excellent. We've obviously reduced the number of teams from 16 to 6 in our first class game. And the quality was there for people to see, right up until the last game. Any one of 3 teams could have qualified. And that's what you want. You want to keep that excitement right to the end. The semi-finals were a bit of a damp squib, but the final again was a good final. And, we got there in the end. Unfortunately, for Southern Punjab, sort of giving away 73 runs in the last 4 overs probably absolutely killed them, or else they lost by 10 runs in the end. So it could have been quite a story, because they played 5, lost 5 at the beginning, I think was what their stats were. And suddenly, there they were in the final. And it was just a remarkable story.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think it's been fantastic. And I personally enjoy a lot of the grassroots as it can get. So for me, on a personal level, it was fantastic. And I'm so glad that, it's available for us as well. So everything you guys are doing it's wonderful. And I guess now moving on, we talked about this. You mentioned it a little bit earlier. Zimbabwe's in Pakistan. The staff, the team, they're all there. My question is this, because a lot of people, when you open up social media, you look at people talking from all over the world. They often argue or leave comments and messages saying, this isn't a real series. This isn't a real country that's visiting, because the opposition are not one of the top 5 or top 10 teams in cricket. But Zimbabwe, who are visiting, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, for the second time since 2015, have played a significant role in enabling the return of cricket to the country. And why do you think it's important, or particularly having Zimbabwe cricket there and the players and the staff there in Pakistan? How is that important, and how does this tour show that this is a sign of success and progress relative to when they toured last time around?
Look, firstly, the fact that we're not paying any of the international teams anymore. Since we came in a part of our regime 20 months ago, we've made a decision. 2 things. One was we didn't want to play our cricket in the UAE anymore, and secondly, we were not going to pay teams to come and play. So, over the last 3-4 years, West Indies, Zimbabwe, the World 11 who came and played a series, were all paid to come and play in Pakistan. So from that perspective, that's success for us. People forget that Bangladesh and Sri Lanka also toured over the last 12 months to play Test cricket in Pakistan. So that's a measure of success. I think getting teams here for the longer formats is always a level of success. Zimbabwe were always going to be touring as part of the Future Tours program, which is a 4-year cycle, 3-4 year cycle of who you play home, who you play away. So it's not as though we've called upon them at the last minute to come and play. So they were always expected to come and tour. We've got South Africa, who are due to tour in January. Their recce team are coming out on the 1st of November to come and gauge the facilities, etc., the security. We've also got, we're speaking to England at the moment about a very short tour in January. The Test series against South Africa starts in Karachi on about the 26th of January. We've then got New Zealand coming at the back end of next year. We've got Australia in early 2022, and England again for longer formats at the end of 22. So, when people say, well, they're not a real team, we can only go by the fixtures. So when Australia plays Zimbabwe, or they play Sri Lanka, in 2 Test matches in the summer, you don't have people saying, well, they're not the real teams and this, that, and the other. I think that just the way the Future Tours program was already set in place when we arrived 20 months ago. It was a 4-year program of series that are due to be played home and away. And that's what we're fulfilling. It's our obligation to fulfill that It happens to be that Zimbabwe are the ones who are coming and are here, and therefore has to be fulfilled. And then we've got South Africa in January at home, and then New Zealand at home in October, September time. So, those things will happen. We've got a big 24 months coming up with 4 of the big countries coming to play us. But let's not underestimate the Zimbabwe's, Bangladesh, Sri Lankas, that they are in international cricket. They have a right to play because they are part of the members and that are part of the Future Tours program. And we're simply fulfilling that. So there's been no special tour organized for Zimbabwe just for this particular thing, and for us to say, hey, great, this is look how well we're doing because Zimbabwe are here. This was always planned as part of the Future Tours program. So that's the way how it operates. And I think there is an education piece for a lot of fans who perhaps don't understand some of these things. A lot do, but some don't. And they just take it as face value, or Zimbabwe aren't real, they're not really a cricketing country. Well, whether they are or not, they're part of the ICC. And this is something that we signed up to 2.5 years ago, that we would play them at this time in 2020. And that's what we're fulfilling.
Absolutely. And, I'm looking forward to the series, and I hope both the teams have a lot of fun. Everything is exciting, and it'll be interesting to see it on that side of the country this time around, which will be fun. You touched on it a little bit, and I think, prior to us chatting, I Googled you as you would, just to prepare. And, the media at the moment is England tour in Pakistan. Is there anything you can share with us? Anything that you can talk about in that regard? Or let me rephrase that a little bit and perhaps ask, is this also then just a standard part of that Future Tours program that you touched on? Or have Pakistan, having just played in England recently, in such a turbulent time for the whole world, did that have its merits in enabling this potential England tour, or are those two very, very separate things?
Look, firstly on that, I said at the time that no deal had been struck between England on a reciprocal arrangement. The plan was always that they're due to tour in 2022, which they have every intention of fulfilling in Pakistan. So this was sort of very much conversations that we've had on an ongoing basis over the last 2 or 3 months, myself and my counterpart at the ECB. And just looking at exploring what could be possible, because 24 months is a long time away. So was there an opportunity for us to fit something in? There potentially could be in the UAE, but there are a lot of logistical hurdles they still need to get over, because their team's also supposed to be touring Sri Lanka. So it means they could have 2 teams in 2 different parts of South Asia at the same time. So, there are a number of factors which they will consider and they will make a decision on. There's nothing confirmed as yet. The signs are good, but up until the point they confirm, nothing's set in stone, so anything could happen. But the fact that we're having those conversations now is a positive sign for Pakistan cricket. But certainly there was no reciprocal arrangement set out at the beginning. When 10 of our players tested positive for COVID out of the 29, it's probably fair to say there was a lot of pressure on me, because people were saying, well, why are we still going to England, putting our players in danger? Well, there was a couple of things really on that. One was the fact that the ECB had presented all of their biosecure plans, which looked fantastic. The West Indies had gone over and were feeding back on their experiences, which were superb. The ECB did everything they possibly could to make us feel welcome and put all the provisions in place. So they were first class. Secondly, there was an obligation, I think, on our part, because I've always said that COVID and cricket are going to have to coexist for a period of time, potentially for the next 12, 18 months. So what do we do? Do we just down tools and not play anymore? Or do we try and get cricket back up again? And I think that after the West Indies series, we were the next series internationally that was being played. And I think also us with our Zimbabwe series, I think is the second country to start playing international cricket on their home soil again. during COVID time. So, I just felt there was a sense of solidarity, whether it had been Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, whoever. I don't think my view would have changed, or our view would have changed in the PCB. We had a moral obligation to get cricket up and running once we knew that it was safe for our players. And we felt absolutely convinced. I thank the players because they put their safety and their health in our hands and trusted us with our decision making. We thought things through thoroughly. We looked at all the pros and cons, and there was no way they were going to board that plane if we felt that they were not going to be safe or secure in England. So, all of those things fell into place, which allowed us to, for the tour to go ahead.
Absolutely. So before I wrap this up, Wasim, I had a couple of questions that are a little bit left of the field. I don't hear too much about these things. I don't know if you've been asked a lot about these things, but there are areas that we look into very and are quite passionate about at Sportageous. And the first one being, blind cricket in Pakistan. We spoke to Sultan Shah, the chairman of Blind Cricket Pakistan, not too long ago. And, Pakistan is one of the pioneers in that space, having sort of really trained up a lot of other countries, worked a lot on the women's game in blind cricket and enabling people with visual impairments to come out and be a part of that game. The PCB is, also has that organization under its wing, from what I understand, and it's been like that for a while. I know that Cricket Australia only did that very, very recently, or still doesn't, in fact, endorse them. So, Pakistan cricket in general is ahead of the curve when it comes to blind cricket in Pakistan. But are there developments? I mean, obviously COVID-19 and everything, and everyone recognizes that, but are there developments taking place on this front? Is this a part of, the strategy that you touched on earlier? And do you see more opportunities such as this growing via the PCB umbrella?
Yeah, look, definitely. And, we've had, if you look at disabilities cricket overall in Pakistan, we've got recently, it's been documented, Shahid Afridi is supporting disabilities cricket. We've had Rashid Latif, the former wicketkeeper, as well, involved, I think, either as a chair or on their board previously. It's something that's within our strategic plan as well, overall around disabilities cricket, because there's different elements, obviously, of disabilities cricket. We've got a Pakistan Disabilities Cricket Association, which comes under our constitution as the PCB. So they are very much, very much part of what we are about. Can we be doing more? Absolutely. Similarly, what we've done with women's cricket, we've really now started to take it on to a different level. Ironically, we've just appointed David Hemp, who is based in Victoria, in Australia, as our head coach, who's involved in the Women's Big Bash, a former colleague of mine who played with me at Warwickshire. So we are looking to move women's cricket forward, and similarly along the same lines, it's how we can continue to develop and support outside of financial support, what else we can do to help disabilities cricket in Pakistan. And look, yes, we may be the pioneers around blind cricket, but there is still a lot more for us to do as a nation to really get behind, disabilities cricket, whether it's the hearing impairment teams or whether it's the blind cricketers. It's just making sure that we are doing everything that we possibly can, and don't just see it sitting on the side and something that we'll come to at the end. It's very important for us that we continue to support any elements of disabilities cricket.
Absolutely. I'm really glad to hear that on a personal level as well. And, you touched on women's cricket, which was the last question that I had. I obviously got to see them play live here in Canberra earlier in the year, which was awesome. One of the most perhaps disappointing things for me in that game, which I think was against England in Canberra, was the stadium was almost empty in terms of Pakistani support.
Yeah.
maybe 50 to 100 people tops. And we had a lot of fun. It was fantastic seeing the women's team go out, play the game, enjoy being in Canberra. It's pretty chilly that time of the year as well, so a bit of a different experience. But, we've also seen, for example, Nida Dar play in the Women's Big Bash League here. Tell me a little bit about what you were touching on earlier. What's happening on that front? Of course, with sports globally, what we've seen is that the men's game, coming from the perspective of generating revenue, has been the first to sort of get back into action. And now women's sport is coming back onto the scene. So what's happening on that front? Is there anything that you've got in the works that for the women's game? Because obviously, one, it's important to provide those opportunities to female athletes in Pakistan to play the game, but then also from a commercial perspective, there is a lot of financial benefit by improving the quality of the sport for essentially the other 50% of the population. So can you tell me a little bit about what's going on that front?
Yeah, look, firstly, from a global perspective, Zishan, if you look at the success of the Women's World Cup in Australia, it's sad in many ways. And you look, when you put things in context and perspective, people have lost their lives around the world due to the pandemic. But if you look at it from a cricketing perspective and a women's cricket perspective, there was a fear for a period of time, I think, that could women's game regress because all the focus was on the men's game, and therefore could this now be sitting on the sidelines and, well, let's get men's cricket up and running. But the longer it took to get the men's game up and running, the further behind the women's cricket was going. There were central contracts of women across some of the countries, the worry about that. But I think there's been some real encouragement in the fact that around the world, that some of the boards have continued to say, look, they're not going to compromise on the women's game, on central contracts for women, which was really, really positive. And I think we saw recently in England where they played the series against the West Indies. Again, women's cricket is back up and running. And I think that more and more now we've got a program with our women's team are due to go to South Africa in January. We're due to host Sri Lanka at home in April. We've got training camps going on at the moment in Karachi. So a lot of activity is now starting to take place and is being sort of moved forward, which is positive news. And hopefully, that investment, I know within the ICC, women's cricket remains one of the important pillars in terms of growing the game and sustaining the game. So that will continue to happen. I've no doubt about that. From a Pakistan perspective, it was important for us that, again, we continued to invest in it. The three areas that, whilst we've cut budgets for this financial year, which starts from the 1st of July for us, the three areas we didn't compromise was the men's international cricket, domestic cricket, and women's game. So what we've done actually is we've maintained the central contracts with some uplift for the women. We've introduced 9 rookie contracts as well. So we've got 9 full-time contracts, 9 rookie contracts to have the best 18 players who receive a level of income. We've also, all our domestic players now get paid to play, which never happened before. Our female cricketers travel business class like the men do for anything over 4 hours of travel time. We've got an all-female panel now of our selection panel, which is average age of 32, 3 past players, including 1 past captain. So we really started to do a whole host of things in terms of trying to raise the value and the credibility of the game within Pakistan in terms of the women. So, within our 5-year strategic plan of our 6 priorities, enhancing the women's game is one of the big parts of what we do. So we're looking at talent hunt programs. There's a whole host of things that we're going to do because we're actually starting with a very small pool of players. We've only got 45 active cricketers in Pakistan who are part of our domestic structure. And of course, with the cultural issues, we're trying to get all our female cricketers qualified as coaches so they could go back into areas and coach and encourage more girls to play so we can build a pool up. So there's a number of challenges that we face, but we've got a very clear plan of the things that we want to do through our women's department at the PCB. So we'll continue to support that. That's certainly one area that we're not going to compromise in terms of what we support and how we support them.
Look, I think that is a fantastic note to sort of wrap things up, Wasim. I think it's amazing what's being done, and as you've shared with the women's game, and I think that we're only going to see more and more of it. I also do hope, and I will say this over here, that when they were here in Canberra, the crowd was very quiet. So I came up with a little bit of a chant, and I hope that the next time they play, people do say it. I will share it here, which was Pakistan ki star nidadar nidadar. So I do hope that fans do start using that one, because it would be really nice to hear. And I know from what we could tell, the players really enjoyed it. Well,
excellent.
Thank you so much for being on the show, Wasim. It's been an absolute pleasure. To everyone watching, listening, reading, whatever it may be sure to tune into the cricket shortly in Rawalpindi. It's going to be awesome. Wasim Khan, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sajan. Thank you.